welcome to Tune In Tuesday at 2. So what I'm going to show you how to do is something I'm pretty excited about, and it really never dawned on me to do this. So this is made from tissue paper, just plain old tissue paper, and it's made with glue. So this is actually a piece of tissue paper encased in glue, and it has a rice paper effect to it, which I just think is yummy. I mean, and it's very sturdy. You can crumble them up, and they come out looking just the exact same way. Let me show you. So I'm going to show you first what the end result is, and then I'm going to show you specifically how to do it and how to make it successful. So here's another version of this. This looks like the same, but this is actually made with napkins. So this is the inside of a napkin. So this is encased in glue, which I'm going to show you how to do. So another version of this, same thing. This is just a napkin that I splattered some paint on, more paint. Now it's interesting. I actually deliberately made holes in here because I think it's really cool when you put this over a collage, because now you have a little window that's open. So I think the holes are really cool. I was watching so many videos of different artists that were doing this, and they actually closed their holes up. I went, no, the holes are like pretty cool. And because this is actually made with glue, I don't know if you can see this, but this is actually not a hole at all. There's actually, I don't know if I can show you this, but it's actually covered over with glue. So there's no hole there. It looks like a hole because there's glue over it. I also colored my glue. So this is just colored glue, but it's still translucent. Now, I also used decorative napkins. So when you take this napkin and put it over, let's say this is something with words on it, it just has a very cool effect. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And this is a real decorative napkin. So this napkin actually, this is the original look of the napkin. And I just peeled away the napkin until you have a single ply, which is this. And then I encased it in glue, which is this. Now here's the thing with using this. I think this is beautiful. And when you put it over something like that, I think that's extraordinary. The only problem is this is a licensed piece of art. You know, it's in a napkin that, an artist licensed their art for this. So if you're not going to sell your work, this is no problem using this in your art. However, I do want to sell my art. So I would not use this exactly like this. What I would do is I might put this down on a piece of art, but I would alter it to the point where the original artist wouldn't basically recognize it. Maybe I would only use a little piece of this, or I'd put a lot of paint on it, or I'd splatter it a lot actually, because using it exactly like it is would be copyright infringement. And that's the same as if I was going to use magazine pieces, same thing. I'm only going to use a magazine piece if I can alter it enough that the original artist would not be able to recognize it basically. So you just need to be careful if we're going to use, really this is very, something you would get out of Home Goods, which I love, but that is not really, I don't want to steal someone's art. Now, I did experiment and do this exact same technique on as many different things as I could, because of course I have to get a little obsessive about this. So this is actually deli paper. For those of you who don't live in the US, this is what deli paper is. It's what we wrap sandwiches in delis. It's kind of like a waxed feel to it. So I encased it. I mean, it's okay. I actually like the napkins a lot better. This is it's a little more substantive, which is okay. Depends on what you're trying to get at. It has a heavier feel to it, although it is translucent. This is also deli paper. This was from the rust experiments that some of you have seen me do. I have no idea why there's white here, but I love it. But this right here, oh my God. I mean, I know I'll use this in a collage because it's just so gorgeous. But I don't know how I got the white. It was just kind of a miracle. I also tried it on a coffee filter. This is also from the rust experiment. I don't think I'm going to do this again. There's nothing special about this. No, there's hardly any translucency, so why do this? This is a paper towel. There is translucency. This is also from the rust experiment. I mean, it's okay. I don't think I'm going to do it again. I'm sure you recognize this. This is a pattern that a lot of collage artists use. I encased it with glue, just like with everything else. But I don't really see how special this is. You know, it is translucent, but so is the original version of this was. So why do I go to the extra trouble of putting, you know, glue on it? And this is just wrapping paper. Again, I'm not going to do it again because I can just take this wrapping paper and put it right onto a collage and it will be just as translucent. So what's the point? So let me show you how to do this technique. So here's a napkin that I really love. In fact, I was going through my stash of, actually, let me show you my stash. So here's these are a stash of napkins that I've been collecting for different reasons, but they were all for the purpose of doing art. And I just happened to stumble upon these word ones today. And I said, oh, let me do a demo with that one since I haven't tried it yet. So the first thing you do with this is you need to separate the napkins out. So you separate them out into as many layers. Most napkins, by the way, have 3 layers, although you don't think they have 3 layers because initially it doesn't look that way. So I've got 1 layer, which is very cool, but the underneath layer here also has an imprint on it. Can you see this? Which I love. I love how subtle that is. And this is actually a 3-ply napkin. By the way, I didn't know that right away. I thought it was only 2-ply, but I just kept kind of playing with the edge here and found a 2nd ply. So you want to separate them all out because you actually have 3 pieces of paper here to do this process with. Now, this one is the end result would be, I can't find it. Oh, well. It's just the plain old white paper, which I think is beautiful. So I think this has a lot. I love using these. But this one, with the really subtle writing on it, I just think that is going to be, I'm going to use this. I love this. But let's do the more obvious one, which is this one. Now, the first thing I need to do is cut this down because it's actually bigger than I have a space for, which you'll see why. I'm doing this in a second. So I'm going to just do this 1/2. Now, the most important part of this process is what we're going to do is glue this. We're going to glue the bottom and the top. So if I put glue on the bottom and the top, I need a surface where when it dries, I can peel this up. Now, this has been the hard part for me. It's been 4 days of experiments trying to find a surface that would allow me to easily rip this up. It just so happens that I found this dry erase board. It's just it's a dry erase board, but it's paper based. Now, if you picture, this is, 1 month. If you picture this times 12, so it's a very large board. And I just cut it up into 12 months. By the way, this is 2019. Don't ask me why I still have this in my studio. It was waiting for today for me to actually rip this up. So what you do is you take some glue. Now, I have experimented with 2 kinds of glue, which of course, why experiment with just one? This is white PVA glue. In the United States, it's called just white glue or Elmer's glue. And the recipe it's very complicated. Make sure you take notes. It's 3/4 glue to 1/4 water. So this is just water and glue. So it's 3/4. Did I say this right? 3/4 glue to 1/4 water. And you just mix it up. By the way, I've already gone through like 4 bottles of white glue to get to today. So the first thing you do, so I just kind of look at it. So how big is this piece? I got it. In fact, the grid on here is kind of helpful. And I am going to put a layer of glue. Now, by the way, you know that your surface is probably going to be good no matter what you're trying here. If you actually see the glue going down without kind of bubbling up, you may not be able to see this, but it's going down really well. So it's actually kind of holding onto this plastic surface. And then I'm going to take this and lay it down. Now, by the way, I kind of like kind of bubbles. So I'm not actually being perfect because if you can, let me show you this. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a lot of wrinkles, which is exactly what I want because I think it's kind of boring. I want it to have some texture to it. So there's lots of texture here. Then here's the this is how complicated this gets. You just put more glue on top until the entire thing is saturated. Now, I wish I could show you the end result of this particular one. I'll probably make a story about it tomorrow because this actually takes 24 hours to dry. It's amazing how long it takes. Now, here's the important part. Now, they're all important parts, by the way, is you need to kind of bunch it up with your paintbrush. By the way, this is just a really cheap chip brush. I could do it with anything. The chip brushes I'm using as part of Collage Kickstart because they make great marks, great circles. You can just get this from the hardware store. They cost like, I don't know, 50 cents. So they're real dispensable, although they clean really well. Now, the reason I'm bunching it up is because when it dries, this makes it exponentially easier to pull up. And I'm actually going to, because I have, if you can see this, I have edges here. So I'm just going to kind of put the edges as, so this makes it just easy, you know, when it actually dries. By the way, I usually use gloves for these demonstrations, and I didn't. I thought, oh, just one time, I won't do it. I'm just using glue. But just, you know, my hands are full of glue. At least they're not full of paint. Glue is easy to get up. Okay, so now we've got a napkin one. And again, I need 24 hours, but I'm going to show you the end result of this. This is going to be like a Julia Child demonstration where I have it all done. I just don't have this particular design done. So I'm going to put this away. And let me show you the same thing done with tissue paper. So this is the tissue paper I use for Collage Kickstart. Nothing special about it. And what I like to do is make some wrinkles. Now, before I put this down, let me tell you, there's many, you don't have to get this particular, you don't have to get this. What I have right here, I'll show you this. This is actually a plastic mat. It's called a Ranger craft mat. And I could put anything on here. I could put glue, paint, and it'll come right off. So my original experiments, all of these were actually made on this, and it worked fantastic. But for a demo, I can't have everything on it's a huge, big craft mat. So I had to find a smaller way. I also don't, right underneath my craft mat, this is a cutting board. You definitely don't want to do it on this because stuff sticks to it. I mean, I have paint on it that won't come up. Whereas this works great. I also originally did it on a shower curtain, but I didn't want to cut my shower curtain up in many pieces. I mean, I actually use shower curtains on my floor in my studio so that I can dry out my papers. So I originally did this experiment on the shower curtain, but again, it's a huge shower curtain. So I didn't want to use a demo with a big shower curtain. So that's why I eventually found this thing. I'm going to show you a couple of the ways of doing this though, because the dry erase is just one way. So again, we're going to just make a nice layer of this glue. It has a really nice sound going down. I don't know why I think the sound sounds nice, but it's very substantive as it's going down. Okay. And then again, I want this kind of textural. So, because it looks more interesting when I pull it up, when it has some texture. So I pat it down without really getting the wrinkles out at all. In fact, I am making wrinkles as I go. Do the same thing. Just make sure that it's really good layer of glue. Just, when I do these demos, I probably make like 50 at least. I have so many of these now. But I just show you a sampling, of what I really liked. Now, there's a couple of things I want to do with this. Well, first I got to push the edges in because this happens to, if you have flat edges, this is just going to glue. It's just going to stick. I mean, it will come up. It just takes a lot more finagling. So I'd rather have it, so I don't know if you notice this, I have paint all over me. Actually from this project, I've been doing this since Saturday. I haven't been doing it since Saturday. I've been doing it in half-hour increments, though, because I have to wait till different phases dry. So hold on. Let me get the edges up so that this is workable. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to do with this. One is I want to make holes. So I'm actually going to force a hole, because, you know, when it dries, it will have a very cool hole, and I'm actually just going to put some glue over it because it will actually create a window. Now, the other thing I want to do is put some paint splatters on this. So I've got some paint on the side already kind of ready to go. So just add some interest to this. And, you know, like any splatters, you start getting like, I particularly love the way the tissue works because you can see it makes these gorgeous rings. That doesn't happen when I do it with a napkin. So the same process, but it doesn't work. Now, one other thing, I actually have also mixed up some blue glue. So I had the white glue and just put paint in it. So that's how I got this. Just painted it with blue. But look how this is spreading. I mean, this is going to be a really pretty piece. Although I can't show it to you because it's got to take 24 hours. But so let me show you the end result, because I have a bunch of them here that I didn't actually pull apart. So here's a napkin that I bought a long time ago. Now, I've already experimented with this napkin. I already used it to make one of these, and it didn't work all that well because what you want to do is choose napkins that have a lot of white on them. So for instance, this has a lot of white. So all the white won't show. That will be where it's translucent. So this doesn't have any white, so it's not going to work that well. However, when you pull this apart, there are 3 layers. There's one. I hope I can find the second layer. Oh, here it is. The second layer was really hard to find, but it's right here. But look at this incredible the middle layer. It's got this great print on it. So although I wouldn't use this because this is a copyrighted piece, I mean, I would use it, but I'm going to like really alter it quite a bit. But this is it's so subtle that I would feel comfortable using it once I encase it in glue. So I have already done that, and I'll show you the result. So here is that middle layer. And the cool thing about, these, and by the way, it didn't matter if I was putting it on here, on a shower curtain, or on here. It all works the same way. You just kind of get it at the edge. You kind of start it. And it just, oops, come on. Oh, here we go. You just got to get it going, and then it will just rip up. I mean, it'll just come right off. Unfortunately, it also wants to curl, but the paper won't be curled. So by the way, I'm seeing this for the first time, like you. And I just love that. And if I put that over, so if I put this over like that, now I've got some really subtle, a really subtle collage piece. So I think that is really beautiful. And I did force a hole here. So there's a hole that would just be a little window. There's some extra glue here, but this will just come right off with an X-Acto knife. Got a couple holes there too. Now, here's the thing. I tried doing this on a number of different surfaces, thinking, because I needed something that I could demo with. I didn't want to just, I couldn't use my shower curtain as a demo. I couldn't use this surface as a demo. So I tried it on wax paper. This is the same paper I just showed you. It's on wax. Did the same process. And I thought for sure this was going to work. Wax paper, right? Everything will just peel up. Wrong. So and I could peel it up. So I'm peeling it up. But it's leaving this residue here. So the residue is actually going on the paper, and it's very, very brittle. So it's very hard to pull up. Now I have pulled it up, but it's like the other one just like literally just came out, but I'm breaking it all over the place. So I literally did about 25 of these. It was a whole roll of wax paper. And once I thought for sure it was going to work. And once it was all over, I ended up with 25 of these. To me, they're useless. So I'm going to toss them. But I want to show you a couple other ways of doing this, a couple of the surfaces that work incredible. This right here is the inside of a cereal bag. So I took one of my boxes of cereal, dumped the cereal into a container, and just opened the bag up. And this is incredibly good. It's just as good as this surface that I showed you. And this might be more accessible. So it just comes right up. It's amazing. And I've got, this is it. I think this is tissue paper. I love that. Again, there's a couple windows in it. I mean, when I put that over something, it'll just add a really lovely element to a collage. So that's a cereal bag. This is just another brand of a cereal bag. Same thing. It just has a little bit different texture to the bag. But the pieces come up. Easy peasy. Same thing with this one. And I just love this one. This is a copyrighted piece, but I would transform this so that, you know, so I would easily be able to use this in a collage. Now, once the wax paper didn't work, I was thinking, well, let me just try parchment paper. Thinking this is not waxed at all. This is definitely not going to go. This is not going to work. But much to my surprise, parchment paper also works like a charm. So parchment paper is a great, I mean, look at that. This is a napkin, by the way. Isn't that like, I just think that's completely gorgeous. And it will show up in my collages. You could still use pieces of those tissue wax paper. I could, Tammy, but there's so many other pretty papers that I like better than the wax paper. It just doesn't seem like, it's just too much labor. And I'm not into labor. So let me show you just the difference between wax. So this is this one right here, which I think is gorgeous. It's actually this napkin. This is a 3-ply napkin. This is the single ply. I mean, it's a beautiful piece. This one, same thing, but it was done on the wax paper. Perfectly fine, except it's cracking all over the place. Whereas this one, I could roll it in a bar and it would come out. And by the way, it's made of the same stuff, made of the same glue. It all has to do with this was put on wax paper and some of the wax paper came off on the back. You can't see it, but it's making it brittle. So this is actually the wax paper. So you can actually see this is the impression. For some reason, some of that paper actually got onto the tissue itself. Now, one more thing. So yesterday, I was actually kind of scrolling on Instagram, and it was actually Nikki Rowe, the person that inspired this in the first place. She sent me a video or YouTube about Yupo paper, and I went, Yupo paper, that's it. I'll use Yupo paper. You know, instead of doing this with these things, I'll use Yupo paper. So I did, thinking 100%, this is the way to go. It is the worst of everything. So now you don't have to do this. So when I tried to get this up yesterday, basically it won't come up. It is permanent. Now, the good thing about this is I made a couple of these. I mean, I can get pieces of it up. This is also water soluble, interestingly enough. So when I ran it under water, the other one, it just all washed off. Although, even though I can't get it off here, it was easy to get off. Because I don't want to waste my Yupo paper, because it is quite a little expensive thing here. And I think that is all she wrote.